Ladies and gentlemen, the price of Bitcoin is 36,246. Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money. Today we have none other than Andy Edstrom, who made the most visionary statement of 2020. And I mean all genres. You talk about COVID, you talk about politics, you talk about economics. In my opinion, Andy made by far the most visionary statement, and I'll happy later to talk about why. But Andy, welcome to the show, Mr. Visionary, fellow Viking. What are you drinking today?
Oh man, I got double coffee going, Danish. I got one in one hand and I got one in the other. And it's only 8:30 in the morning over here, which is my fault. I asked for the slot. It's just my schedule has been a little crazy lately, but it's awesome. It's awesome to be on with you. And I want to thank you for your kind compliment. And I want to do just quick disclaimers. 1, not investment advice. 2, opinions are my own. 3, number go up, except when number go sideways, and sometimes down, but mostly number go up.
Absolutely. And Pubby, what are you drinking today, my friend? I'm having coffee. I'll just throw that in there. But what are you having?
Well, one of us has to keep it real, man. So yeah, nice Sierra Nevada Pale Ale there. So yeah, we're welcome to the show, Andy.
I used to be big on Sierra Nevada. They had an IPA product. I don't know if they still do. I used to drink a ton of that stuff. Back in the day, they used to have it at the bodega on the shelf when I lived in New York, and just grab a 6-pack on the way home, and that was my drink of choice. Back when I worked on the dark side, on the evil side on Wall Street many years ago.
Yeah, so I also do the. Oh, I was going to say there's one called Torpedo. I don't know if you've seen that. If you see that one, just is that? Yeah.
Like that one too.
Andy, so I think the question that everyone have on their mind right now is today is a public holiday, and did you forget that when you scheduled 8:30 a.m. PST that it is a public holiday today? Because I've been up early today.
Well, to be honest, holiday. What's a holiday these days? I mean, I can't remember the last time I had a day off. The good news is so much of it is Bitcoining, so it doesn't feel like work. But yeah, man, it's crazy. The more inbound is coming in, and I just find the time of day that's most available. And morning is good because it sort of leaves the rest of the day to get other stuff done. But yeah, man, that's why we picked this time slot. Where are you located? What's your time zone?
I'm in LA, and I'm guessing you're not too far from me. Is that correct?
I didn't realize you were LA, dude. I don't know why I didn't know that. We got to get together, man. I'm in West LA. I'm in Mar Vista, which is like, near Venice, near Santa Monica.
Let's go get some steak. I know Brian Harrington from OC. He runs meetups, and they do pretty much underground meetups now with all the restrictions. They have some great ice cold pints and meetups for Bitcoin and Lightning Network especially.
We got to do it, man. I had a couple of barbecues in the late summer when Bitcoin was down in like the 10K range. Actually, one of those barbecues was, I think, when we wicked to 12 and then went hard down to 10. And I feel like I must have had you on my list, but maybe you were out of town or something, or maybe I didn't have you on the list. Anyway,
I just think you considered me a no one, Andy, but that's okay. You haven't been on the show before.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I asked Brecky. I was like, Brecky, like, give me a list of every Bitcoiner you know in LA, and I'm gonna invite him. And I thought I did that.
Breggy, you have just been outed. My beef is with you, Breggy.
It's not Brecky's fault. I don't mean to blame him, although I'm very good at blaming other people for my mistakes.
That reminds me, we had Jeff Booth on once, and I think the statement from him was, "Yeah, I love that." We're thanking him for being on the show, and he said, "Yeah, I love to come on little shows like this, deal with a little guy." I know what he meant, but it was still a nice shot in the back.
Booth is legend as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think I cited his book in my book. I definitely cited his book in my recent article that I wrote with Peter McCormick. And his book, I really do think his book is the most important one, that I read in 2020.
So we're lining up all these different people, and I feel compelled to read their books. So I'm looking down the line. I'm getting some feedback there.
Yeah, you're getting some feedback. While you're getting feedback, I just want to let everyone know that this is a historic moment. This is the first time ever that Pablo.Hodl has interacted with the chat and written something in the chat. Greggy, he didn't mention you. He mentioned that Knut is in the house. So there we go, historic moment.
Oh, I was the first one to say, let's get the party started. So scroll back up.
Are we still getting feedback for me, by the way?
No, I think we're good now.
All right.
But what I was going to mention was, when like Gigi agreed to be on the show, Knut and Jeff, I'm going down a list like, man, I got a lot of books to read. So I'm like I'm three deep. I'm halfway through Knut's, but yeah, your Why Buy Bitcoin is on the order list as well. But you want to tell people about it?
Yeah, of course. Happy to shill my own product. Why Buy Bitcoin it's the investment thesis for Bitcoin. I wrote it for my clients. I wrote it for my friends and family. I wrote it for legacy finance people who, for some reason, hadn't at the time figured out this Bitcoin thing. I think more of them are figuring it out now. And it's quick on what is money, what's the state of the world in terms of debt. A few funny personal anecdotes from my time on Wall Street. And then, basics on Bitcoin, the investment thesis, and then the risks, right? I got like 40 pages of FUD. I got the laundry list of FUD and things that could go wrong, all the usual tropes we've all been talking about for years now. And that's the book. And I hope it's something that people can give to their pre-coiner, new coiner, even old coiner friends and family. I think they'll get a lot out of it.
Andy, sorry, go ahead, Andy. If it was you, Pubby, you can just let me talk here for a while, maybe. Just like,
go ahead.
Okay. Andy, I just want to hear. So the conclusion you end up with in your book of like final end target buying power, like in terms of today dollars. What are we looking at there? What's your conclusion? How many millions of dollars will Bitcoin be worth? Just to jump right into a little bit of NTU Moon Juice numbers.
Love it. So in fairness to me, when I published the book, Bitcoin is about 8,500. Okay. So I published it late 2019 and we were still under 10K. And the approach I took was, if I'm too moon juicy, people are just not even going to pay attention. Because remember, this one, I wanted to bring into the fold, some, let's say, normies, people who haven't had their mind blown by Bitcoin just yet. And so, my price target in the book was 400,000 and within a decade. So that would have been by, 2029, which now looks kind of conservative. And the basic notion was the usual, it'll take some share of gold, some share of fiat, some share of offshore assets, some share of, store of value of other assets, right? Demonetizing real estate and stocks and all that stuff. And then, some new stuff that we haven't, even thought of, micropayments, what have you. And I think the main part of the thesis that I significantly underestimated is the demonetizing of other assets, right? Is how much value is Bitcoin going to take from mainly real estate, but also stocks and bonds, obviously. So that's
obviously, Andy.
Obviously. So that's the part where I've gotten honestly much more bullish. And, you know, if I publish a second edition or something like that, chances are good that the price target will be higher. So that's how my thinking's evolved. And again, yeah, I didn't want to totally pull out the moon juice for the noobs. I didn't want my clients or friends, family to just sort of turn it off and be like, you know, that's ridiculous, you know, 7-figure, 8-figure price targets. So yeah, that's the short answer.
No, okay. So I love that, Pubby. I'm going to give you the word because I do want to give you a chance as well. But you know, if you will be called Andy the Bear after the show, don't be surprised. I'm just giving you a warning. But I think the target is great. You know, 400,000. You just forgot about 19.5 million. But then you're spot on. I like it.
I see someone in the chat is now calling me Brent Johnson. That hurts.
I told you we had the best chat in this space. Yeah. Hey, so it's interesting because even though I couldn't read the book, I was able to go back, and even though I've listened to you on many podcasts, I like to go back and remind myself on certain things. Excuse me. I remember you talking about putting the book together and all this. Do you look back and say, how did you learn something? You say, man, I wish I could rewrite that chapter.
By the way, sorry, I got to respond to popular demand to pull it out.
Yeah, but you look back and say, man, I didn't understand this as much as I wish I had when I wrote this. So is there anything you go back and say, man, I wish I could rewrite this?
Yeah, I think it's probably, I mean, the one that comes to mind is just exactly what I said a minute ago, which is like, you know, what is the upside potential for demonetizing other assets? And I was very, very conservative in the book. You know, I think I assigned a couple $1 trillion, you know, the total value, you know, because whatever 400K Bitcoin is 8 trillion, roughly speaking. I assume, you know, 20 million coins. I'd like to think that, you know, 4 or 5 million have been lost, but I think that's let's say optimistic. So that is the one piece I think that stands out for me. And then, you know, there are a couple things in the book that are already, you know, sort of obsolete. I mean, obviously I talk about how much money they printed, you know, in the global financial crisis of 2008, 2009, and how much has been printed since then. And then, of course, we have the pandemic, which has just swamped those numbers, dwarfed those numbers. And the good news is in the book, I reached the conclusion that I think most Bitcoiners do, which is like, we already had an unsustainable, unrecoverable debt problem before the pandemic, right? Like the path out was likely money printing and inflation. And so if that was true prior, well, it's definitely true, you know, since they printed a few more trillion here and there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I'll go, man. I never had this opportunity. Yeah. Hey, I was going to ask you, because again, learning your history, I think you worked, you said you worked with your dad and he had a partner, but you went to work for that firm. And I was curious what the transition was like when you start finding about Bitcoin. Did your dad really take to it, or was this like a Schiff family drama where he's old school gold?
Yeah, I love that. So I was class of 2017. Of course, wish I'd been earlier. And I was, like many people, you know, the third exposure got my attention. Right, I ignored it the first time. I ignored it the second time. The third time it caught my attention, and I looked at Bitcoin and I took the usual hero's journey through all the shit coins, and ultimately came back to Bitcoin. So back then in 2017, yeah, it was all about crypto, and you know, Web 3.0, and we're going to decentralize all the things. And so I give him credit. He is a very open-minded guy. He reads very widely, so he has sort of a broad view of the world, and he got there faster than I would have expected. He definitely got there faster than my partners, my other business partners. So that was the greater challenge. Was they were for a long time, I think, still in the camp of this is a bubble, this is nonsense, it's a pyramid, it's not money, right? That's my favorite. It's not money. Okay, I agree. Bitcoin's not money. Don't worry about us, you know, over here in the corner. We'll keep being not money, you know, into the 6 figures and into the 7 figures, and come talk to us later. But yeah, so that was the challenge. He was very open-minded. He bought in 2017. he has since accumulated more. So I give him credit. My hat's off. I guess we're cut from the same cloth for obvious reasons. He managed to figure it out, and he came along with me.
I think this is, Andy, a great, first of all, of course, in case I forgot in the beginning, thank you very much for the most visionary man of 2020 to come on the show. We're honored. And I just want to explain to people why you were the most visionary man of 2020. It's because you foresaw late summer 2020, what I consider the most important milestone in terms of human history in 2020, because you foresaw that Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy could go out and sell convertible bonds to buy Bitcoin, which essentially is an attack on the dollar. You foresaw that, and it happened. And the reason why I say it's the most visionary is because, first of all, not many people were thinking like you were. But second of all, the fact that this mechanism and this purchase, an attack on the dollar can happen, is probably, I think, the most positive step for humanity last year, because it is speeding up the adoption of global sound money, which is deflationary and will do so much good for humanity. So I, again, honored to have you on the show, Andy, Mr. Visionary 2020 MVP.
Well, thank you so much, Anders. I really appreciate it. You're really too kind. All I did was take my experience from the dark side on Wall Street and turn the greed dial up slightly. And and the other thing too is, credit to your recent guest Preston Pish, who I was talking with on that episode. And he's been, I think, thinking and talking about this angle for a while now. So he may have planted the seed in my head originally about balance sheet Bitcoin. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you've worked with companies and looked at balance sheets for long enough, and I guess, I just happened to have the experience, early in my career. I worked on Wall Street. I worked on the high yield bond desk, right? So my team was issuing bonds for companies like his. And wow. I didn't anticipate that it would be a convertible bond structure. I was just thinking of a regular high yield bond structure. Of course, he took it to the nth degree. He chose the structure that would have little or no interest, and he was willing to give up some of the equity, some of the upside in order to do it in size. And that, I think, final size was like 650 million, very substantial. And yeah, he's fired the starting gun. I mean, we can look back on last year and say there was Paul Tudor Jones, and there was Stan Druckenmiller, and there was PayPal, and there was these various things. But man, Saylor, what a brilliant move. He really gets the Rookie of the Year award for last year. But I was just lucky enough to have the idea pop into my head at that moment in time.
It's funny when you bring up Saylor like this, and us, he's more of a cult hero. But to me, one of the more impressive things is, I became like the money, putting the money in, but he's one of the thought leaders now. Those other guys, they can buy Bitcoin. This guy explains Bitcoin better than most of the people in the Bitcoin sphere, honestly.
Oh yeah. My, Corey Clipston, who runs Swan Bitcoin, put it best, I think, when he said that Saylor is by far the best salesman he's ever seen, like in any context, right? And I think one of the new guys to join the show, which is Anthony Scaramucci and Skybridge, can give him a run for his money. He's a hell of a salesman too. So now I think we've got maybe the two greatest salesmen alive today, now both in Bitcoin. But I agree with you. He can tell the story. He's so eloquent. He's so clear. He's so confident. Saylor is a hell of a pitch man.
Well, is it one of the argument? Not really argument. But what he brought to the forefront for me was how he can compare it to just revolutionary. It's a revolutionary technology. All these different companies from Standard Oil, everything else. And he's trying to explain to people how Bitcoin is different and how it's revolutionary. And what's fantastic is he's proven by he just sees one chart. When he goes into a room, what do you mean? He goes, well, I dollar cost average into 18,000 per Bitcoin. I doubled my money since August. There.
Pretty powerful stuff, right? Hard to argue with that. And for anyone who hasn't yet, I mean, he's done so many, podcasts, and he has so much content out there. But with respect to the real foundational, civilizational, history of science stuff, people should definitely check out his series with Breed Love. I'm sure the guys on here. I see Princey, I see MTC, BTC. I saw Greg. All these guys, I'm sure, have already watched that whole series, front to back several times. But in case anybody hasn't yet, you should definitely check that out. Oh, and by the way, check out his episode with Princey. He was on Princey's show. I see Princey in the chat, so people should definitely watch that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was great. Princey does amazing podcasting with his podcast Once Bitten. Shout out to Princey and all the other guys in the chat, because we have, Andy, the best chat in the space. I don't know if you noticed already, but I have a question for you. So when will we see MicroStrategy perform more convertible bonds and buy more Bitcoin and attack the dollar further? We discussed this with Preston and Pierre last week on Friday, where Preston confirmed to me that Michael Saylor can sell more bonds strictly because his debt to equity ratio goes down, even though his profit loss is the same. He makes the same 50 million every year. He can buy more Bitcoin and further push the price. And you have several companies doing that. That in itself is a buy turbo on the price on the entire bull run. So, but you have experience with this. When can we expect MicroStrategy to go out and buy more corn?
Yeah, that's a great question. If only I knew. Shout out to Canute, by the way. I just saw in the chat also. So yeah, and I was talking actually last night, I think, with Croesus, another good follow on Twitter, and we were talking about the range that the price is trading in now, right? The kind of narrowing triangle. And I was joking to him. I was like, we need Saylor to announce another bond deal to break us out to the upside. Yeah, so it's true that this is the way. There was a time many decades ago, really before the junk bond market, the high yield bond market was developed, when most lending was cash flow lending. And the idea was, if you're going to borrow something, if you're going to borrow some money against an asset like a business, then the business ought to have the ability to pay down the loan in its entirety by maturity, right? So in other words, if it was a 10-year maturing bond or loan, and it was $100 million, well, then the company better be generating, $10 million a year to pay down the principal in addition to the interest. Now, that notion changed over the years, perhaps in part because of central bank policy and all the money printer go brrr. And so you got to this area where it's what you described. It's okay, look at the total value of the business and what is the loan to value as a ratio. And we're kind of familiar with this, when people who own houses, right? You buy a house, you buy $1 million house, you put up 250 grand and you borrow 750 grand. And so your loan to value is 75%. And the idea is that there's some cushion, there's some valuation cushion with the equity value underlying that loan. And it's true for businesses also. I mean, there's no question that, let's put it this way. Let's look at Tesla. Does Tesla generate cash flow? Not really. Can Tesla go borrow, $5 or $10 billion in the bond market? Yeah, they could do that tomorrow. Because there's so much enterprise value. There's so much value in the total business. And so getting to your question of when specifically can MicroStrategy issue more debt? I mean, yeah, if MicroStrategy is now a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, and therefore the total value of the enterprise is multiple billions of dollars, then a few $100 million of debt doesn't look that bad. I mean, if it was like $4 billion, total enterprise value, and $1 billion of that was debt, which would be another several $100 million up from here, that wouldn't look too, that doesn't look too taxing to me. It doesn't look too crazy. So I haven't thought about what is the borrowing limit for him and for them, but especially if he's doing these convert deals, which have near zero interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Less than 1% interest. He's paying his interest cost on that $650 million bond deal is like $5 million a year. It's peanuts. It's nothing. I mean, if the business is generating, I think he guided toward 30 to 50 million of cash flow annually, somewhere in that range. He could probably multiply the amount of debt that he's carrying. Now, I think there's probably some limit because it's about appetite. How many hedge fund managers that can't otherwise get Bitcoin exposure, are going to pile in with 10 and $20 million orders? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
But no, Pubby, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I think it's really interesting. But I see this and I look at what MicroStrategy did, and I believe they bought enough for this. After this halving, they bought, I think, 1/8 of the supply of Bitcoin, this company. And to think about that, you only need 8 other MicroStrategies. This is even talking Grayscale and everyone else. I'm just waiting for the big boys to come in. Yeah, Elon keeps teasing us. Who's the next major corporation, be it Apple, that is going to say, "Damn, Saylor was right. We're going to get in." It's only $40,000.
Yeah, I think the way I've been thinking about this lately is the most likely scenario is buying below the materiality threshold, and I don't know what that is. In other words, if you're pick a internet giant that's got $100 billion of cash on the balance sheet. Apple or Google or those guys have something in that range. I think Apple has more than 100 billion. If they put 1% into Bitcoin, say $1 billion, I doubt that they even have to disclose that. I doubt that they even have to mention it. So to me, that's kind of the obvious move. You probably have several companies that start to accumulate quietly. If you think about it, if you're actually a long-term believer in Bitcoin, this could apply to Musk or anyone else. You don't really gain much. In fact, you probably lose something by being too out there, too public with it. At least at the current level. I mean, I think Saylor got in at a great price, and he wanted to start the trend, and so he fired the gun, the starting gun. But yeah, I'm not sure that a CEO of a large company is likely, or CFO is likely to talk about it. I think more likely they're just going to start buying quietly. And yeah, a few of those balance sheets, the trillions of total corporate cash, it doesn't take much to suck up that supply. You mentioned the amount of supply that MicroStrategy and Saylor did or accumulated. And I think at the time, the math was something like 35 days of supply, right? It was like, 900 coins a day, and it was like 35 days worth in that deal. And yeah, so a month's worth of supply off the market. And his company is, they were $1 billion plus value company. Now they're several billion, thanks to the brilliant Bitcoin purchase. But compared to some of these giant companies, especially the tech-focused ones that of anyone ought to understand this better, than most, it's they're a little fly speck on a relative basis.
And
Right.
Anders, I'll give you the word in a second. I just got one follow-up with that one, because is that what we're seeing now? This run-up, especially, is all of these companies that are buying the minimal amount without having to announce it. Is that part of the run-up? Is everyone behind the scenes just, what, we'll do the minimum. We don't have to publicly announce it, and boom, all of a sudden you're from 10,000 to 40,000 in a month.
I think that behind the scenes quiet accumulation is going on now, and there will be more and more of that. And MG Smith 4 is saying, I didn't come here for I don't know. I want a prediction. All right, I'll give you a prediction. I'll give you 2 predictions. One I haven't made before, and the other I will. I'm going to say that here in January, we got another 2.5 months in the quarter. I'm going to say that Saylor comes over the top again and does another multi-$100 million deal. That's assuming that Bitcoin, stays in the 30+K range. I don't know how to size that exactly. I think it would be a few hundred million. I don't think it's going to be 650, but let's say 300 to 400. The second prediction I'm going to make, which I think I made before, is I do think we see an ETF this year, and I also think that one of the major catalysts is Grayscale. I think Grayscale Bitcoin Trust gets to 100 billion, which isn't too far of a stretch. A little bit of premium, some new issuance. They just reopened the doors, recently. They took in like $700 million, I think, dollars into the Grayscale Trust, or maybe it was all the trusts combined, but we know it's mostly about Bitcoin. They did that in a day recently. And if price goes, where we think it's going to go, at least in the six figures this year, then the SEC is going to be staring at $100 billion Bitcoin trust, which is just a giant gift to Barry Silbert, right? Barry Silbert is rolling in dough, and the longer they wait to approve that ATF, the greater that gift gets to Barry and his crew. So, yeah, I think that may be the catalyst. We'll see.
Right, and you have a question here. So, as I understand, you're the guy who knows about this. You're the finance guy. Have that background. When there's certain companies or organizations that are not allowed to buy Bitcoin, but they're allowed to buy bonds. Is that correct? So doesn't MicroStrategy's convertible bonds basically create an option to buy Bitcoin indirectly for a very large sum of money out there?
Yeah, it definitely does. And it definitely does in the short term. There's no question that, by the way, I think a lot of people think in terms of sort of regulation and strict rules. I think actually in most cases, even the, let's say more staid, more conservative institutional pots of money, whether that's insurance companies or pensions, I think those guys are actually more constrained by their just outright investment policies. So every large institution will have an investment policy, and it is memorialized in an investment policy statement. And this is the document that has rules. It says the assets they can buy, and if it ain't listed on the list of stuff they could buy, then they probably can't buy it. However, that is subject to change. I mean, these guys have boards. They have chief investment officers who report to the boards. And if the chief investment officer says, "Look, we got to get into this Bitcoin thing," if only because we have 30 to 40% of our portfolio in bonds, and those things are toast if we get inflation, right? I mean, inflation is truly kryptonite, to a typical bond portfolio. And so if the CIO goes to the board and says, "Look, we need to buy this just as a little bit of a hedge," I don't see why they can't get those moves approved, get those amendments to the investment policy statements approved. Now, does that happen quickly? No, it doesn't happen quickly. It could take months. It could take what Saylor did, right? He did his homework. He got up the curve, and then he had to get his board on board. And so he, sent him all this educational information, had him watch videos, had him read stuff. And no doubt he was pushing them along quickly because he saw that the opportunity, he wasn't going to have an opportunity to buy, 11K Bitcoin as he did the first time around for very long. And so, so I think the time for some of these investment boards to get up the curve is longer. It may be months, but I don't see why it can't happen. I really don't see why it can't happen. And what I explain to my clients and what I explain to people, because people are like, "Wait, is it a risk asset or is it a hedge? Like, what is it?" And as we know, it can be both. And there's a really good case to, if you have a high risk tolerance, to buy it as a call option on making multiples of your money. And there's also a really good case that if you're a low risk investor, which means you got tons of bonds, and those bonds are going to get wrecked if we get inflation, if and when. I think when, by the way, not if. Then you better own it there too. And even if you own the usual inflation-proof asset, which is gold or monetary metals, well, guess what? the sentiment is shifting. People are starting to see Bitcoin as digital gold and better than gold. So you better own that thing that's going to take share from gold. So in all ways, Bitcoin wins.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think what we saw in like last year, from beginning of the year to the end of the year, is the sentiment on Bitcoin changed from being a risk asset to be, hey, this is the most conservative choice in a world where everything is going to fall apart. Because I mean, if fiat collapses, which I believe it will, I think we all do, then Bitcoin is the thing to hold. And when it does collapse, you can no longer have an artificial 0% interest rate, and that means that you'll see Amazon and all these other growth stocks with like a 500 price earning, that they can't keep those valuations. So I mean, my take is, look, everything is going down in terms of Bitcoin, like denominated in Bitcoin. Pubby.
Yeah, and this was, I think this is what Preston framed. By the way, great episode that you guys did with Preston and Pierre recently. If anybody missed that, definitely give that a watch or a listen. And yeah, his framework is there are companies that do Bitcoin and there are companies that don't do Bitcoin. And if you don't do Bitcoin, right, if you don't have it on your balance sheet or you aren't somehow serving the ecosystem, you're going to get left in the dust potentially. And yeah, the valuation question is a really interesting one, and it's one that I debate with my partners and I struggle with myself, which is when does Bitcoin get big enough to reprice everything else? When do we get to a situation where people aren't willing to pay 30 and 40 and 50 times earnings or cash flows for for stocks or for real estate for that matter, right? I look around my neighborhood, I can't believe the prices, I can't believe the real estate prices. But yeah, it's we're gonna find out. It's gonna be interesting.
Pubby, would you like to say something?
Pubby,
oh, sure.
Where are you located, by the way?
So I'm on East Coast, and thankfully my governor is better than yours. I'm in Florida, and we still have a little bit of freedom. We go out, things are open, get some sunshine. You can go have a beer everywhere. Yeah, no lockdowns here, man.
Everyone's moving to Florida. They're smart.
Florida, yeah. Right now, Florida, Texas, and Wyoming are our only chance. So I had a question, and I love the fact, because like I say, man, when I listen to your podcast, first thing you say is, this is not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? When you're saying that at $5,000 Bitcoin is $40,000 Bitcoin, people are going to listen to you. When you started telling people, hey, put Bitcoin, you got to put a portion on here. Put it on here, and I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said you started out with it was only like 1% or less.
That's exactly right.
Are you getting people that call you up angry? Like, why didn't you tell me more?
It's funny. I haven't had any of those calls that I can remember. Now, it's helped that we've added to the position over time.
Yeah.
So it's gotten more meaningful. I definitely, when I first put it on there, got some of the opposite calls, like, what the hell are you doing? What is this dog shit you just put in my portfolio? So it was, which I guess means, of course, in retrospect, I should have gone bigger. I think if I'd gone, multiple percentage points, if I'd gone like 5% day one, some clients would have fired me. And so that's this, tricky position that that wealth managers are in, that financial advisors are in. Now, the good news is we've moved past that point, in my opinion. I'm going to be doing a panel, an educational panel on Wednesday, for FAs, and I've gotten to the point where, I'm kind of shaming my brethren, who are not involved in it yet. And what they say is, look, I don't have the right vehicle. Like, as an example, the Bitcoin Trust has been out there for a long time, but it's got problems, and they just say, look, I'm a fiduciary, so I can't take the risk of using some, suboptimal investment vehicle. And my perspective is, if you're a fiduciary and you don't have exposure, to this thing for your clients, you're not serving them. So yeah, I think we're at the point now, It'll be interesting to see. I know that I saw that survey from Bitwise, I think they published recently, that said something like 8% of financial advisors actually have Bitcoin exposure for their clients by now. However, I suspect there's some selection bias on that survey, right? It's like, who's answering the Bitwise survey? Well, I'm not sure it's a random sample of financial advisors. It's more likely the ones who are interested in Bitcoin. But oh, by the way, shout out to someone who just said they bought my book. I missed the name, but oh, there we go. Chair Force Hodl. I like that. Chair Force. I still have my chair. I'm not a good enough Bitcoiner. I'm not all in yet. I still have a chair. Anyway.
Andy, I just want to tell you, and then you can continue. So Chairforce is the guy that creates our thumbnails for the show, just so you know, and then please carry on. Yeah.
Nice. Shout out Chairforce. I hope you enjoy it. Who's Plan Marcus? Who's Plan Marcus?
So
that's Plan B.
He's actually, yeah, he's a Plan B sock puppet account. He's all the, yeah.
I love it, man. This is you know, Preston was right. This is the best chat in all of Bitcoin. He said it on the last episode, people. Listen to that. Watch that episode.
Hey, I watched your show with Stefan Livera, and I automatically know you got to go to the 2-minute and 45-second mark to get past all the sponsors. Not here, man. We go right in.
Yeah. I love it. Pirate Bitcoin radio over here.
Amen.
I like that too.
Yeah, totally.
However, I will sell out if Guinness wants to sponsor, and they can throw a little mini bar there, and there's someone who's serving me just like a fresh ice cold Guinness after each of them are finished. Like, serve one, start pouring the next. I will sell out to Guinness if they want to come on as a sponsor.
Let's make sure there's no misunderstanding. We are anti-establishment until the right opportunity comes across.
You're capitalists. We're all capitalists. We recognize an opportunity when we see one.
Yeah.
It's easy to be a saint. Talk is cheap. It's easy to be a saint when nobody's trying to pay you to be something else.
When Toxic Happy Hour Crypto Vision.
Ooh, when Toxic Happy Hour Crypto Vision.
Andy, you were on a rant before with a train of thought, and we absolutely demolished that. Do you think you can? Do you recall what you were talking about before?
Wait, no, I don't. What are we talking about?
I don't know. We managed to.
This is how we pivot, because I'm curious now. When we're early March, I know I think it's when you were talking to Stefan Livera. Nothing about Michael Saylor. Bitcoiners, the hardcore, we're hodling down at 5,000, man, just picking it up. Now we talk. I want to go to stock to flow, man. And did you foresee this coming? I mean, right now that model's still holding up. At the time, there weren't people as confident. So, what are your thoughts on stock to flow?
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Chairforce. Yes, I did buy your shirt, the Federal Reserve one. I have to see if I got it yet. I still have a pile of packages that from Christmas time that I haven't gone through. It's probably in there, so I'm looking forward to breaking it out. Okay, so stock to flow. Yeah, I was skeptical of stock to flow. So it came out. So the first model came out in like March or April of 2019.
Yes, correct.
March. Yeah,
it was almost at the all-time lows. I remember that.
I remember you mentioned Stefan Livera. I remember when I remember his interview with Plan B, and at that time we were in the depths of the bear market, and man, that was a good day. That picked me up. I was like, wow, there's a model that says it's going to go to the moon. So I was happy. I was happier when I got to the end of that episode that day. But, I kind of took the view that, okay, well, we've only been through a couple halvings, so, how confident can we be? And then middle of this, or I should say last year, 2020, the summer, man, it was a long summer. We were bouncing around there around 10K, over, under, and it was getting into the fall. And I have to admit, I was getting a little antsy. I was thinking like, okay, this, when are we going to see this move? And then bam, right? Out of nowhere comes Saylor and comes PayPal and stuff. And so, and now we're on that target. I am more skeptical about the the sort of the orbitals and where we're going to end up, sort of at each step, at each halving. But I cannot deny the logic behind stock to flow in general. I mean, I can make a case that if the current stock to flow of over 50, or said differently, the flow to stock, the inflation rate or issuance rate is under 2% now, and likewise for gold, like, why shouldn't Bitcoin already be worth as much as gold? Right? And that would actually be a higher level than the model would predict. And that could be the scenario where, this thing goes higher than any of us have been expecting. But there's also the self-fulfilling element, which is if the model, if price follows the model, and I know Plan B, thinks it will and thinks we'll get a boom and a crash like we usually do. If that happens again, it could be self-fulfilling. People could look at that thing and say, okay, well, that's the pattern, so I'm going to trade around that pattern, and I'm basically just going to follow the leader, fall in line. And so it could have a self-fulfilling element. I don't know. Only time will tell.
Hey, this is a great segue. I got to jump in on this one, Anders. Sorry, man.
You jump in. I'll get some. Get the rest of my coffee. Go.
Yeah. No, because this fits in. Because of course, you'll see it in the chat. But hey, man, and I'm as bullish as the next one, and I think this is our escape velocity cycle. At this point, there's just too much out there from corporations, nation states. What are your thoughts on that? Is this one where we break the model to the upside?
Yeah. So this is how I'm too chicken to make a definitive statement. This is how I think, right? Which is in probabilities. And I say, okay, base case, greater than 50% probability is the cycle just repeats. We have this big move up into the six figures and then a correction downward. And that correction probably is not as severe as the ones in the past, because it gets a little bit, the first time was down, 95%, then it was down 90, then it was down 85, then 80. So now this time maybe we're down only 70 or 75% peak to trough. So that's still my base case. But I have to allow for some probability, I don't know, 20%, let's say, that it achieves, escape velocity, as you're suggesting, and it just goes up. Related to that could be, it seems to achieve escape velocity and it goes to 1 million, right? Let's say it goes to 7 figures. And then finally the buying pressure is exhausted, and that's where you get the correction. In other words, you get the correction from a significantly higher level than people anticipated. And so it corrects down to whatever, 250, or 300, but that's still a pretty high, high point to be troughing at, considering where we are now. And then
only a million.
Exactly.
Yeah, only a million. Yeah.
And then I also I've been talking to Bitcoin Tina, and he's pulling me around to his notion that there might be this third option, which is just it sort of, marches upward basically over a period of years. And people sort of front run the next halving, but not to crazy levels. So, okay, Bitcoin moon in this cycle. All right, 20% chance.
Oh, fantastic answer.
But Pubby, I wouldn't. If you said, okay, Andy, 20% chance, pay me 5-1 odds against, I probably wouldn't take that bet.
Another one that we have to answer, Preston, Pish, and I have our own, but view on this, is it pleb or is it plebe?
Preston, I can't, Preston went through training, he went through that military pipeline. So it's hard for me to argue, but I'll be honest with you. I usually say pleb.
There you have it, folks in the chat. We got a plebber on here.
Unresolved conflict of the ages. This will be the next fork war will be over plebe versus pleb.
The whole thing, I tweeted out about this. The whole thing that is brilliant to me about it is we are just so nonchalant about $35,000 and $40,000 Bitcoin. We got nothing better to argue about on Twitter.
It's really true. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
Very good problem to have.
Over to you, Anders.
Okay, so I would like to know, we have some amazing memers in the chat, and one of them is my co-host Pubby here. What is your favorite meme, Bitcoin meme, of all the different institutionalized memes.
Oh man, is that a question? That's a question for me. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God, what is the best meme?
Or sort of narratives from Printer Go Burr.
I mean, Printer Go Burr is the classic. You
yeah.
can't argue with Printer Go Burr because that actually jumped into mainstream. By the way, who made that one? Do you guys know?
That's a great question. Hey, you know, we had Udi on here who did my other favorite, Have Fun Staying Poor.
Yeah.
But
Udi, that one is classic. That one is so much fun. And I don't know if it wins us a lot of Bitcoiners a lot of friends, but but it is pretty damn funny.
I have a confession.
Everything Peter Schiff is good.
Yeah.
Right. I have a confession. I now can't help but take have fun staying into my real life. I start saying to people, not necessarily have fun staying poor, but I just started using that term, and you can throw anything at that.
Have fun staying blank, fill in the blank.
Yeah, and I fill in the blank every time.
Yeah, I love that. I'll give a shout out to RDBTC. RD_BTC. He pumps out an incredible quantity of funny content. So, you know, he's done a bunch of stuff, and I can't think of specific examples, but yeah, have fun staying blank. What's the latest what's the latest thing you've had fun staying, Danish?
It's let me see if this is something I can show.
Don't blow anyone up.
It was something like have fun. That would be too personal. But yeah, so I'll say another one. This is very innocent. I rented a boat in Newport Beach yesterday and sailed around, and just for fun, you know, sending pictures and saying have fun staying dry. It was a lot of fun renting a boat for 2 hours, and it was great weather. But you know, I'm not being very I'm not selling anyone out here. So that's.
What about you, Pubby? Are you on the coast? Are you in boat territory?
I absolutely am. I'm on the west side. I'm down here in Tampa, and absolutely love it. I've been here, been here 30 years. But yeah, nothing better than get out on the water, man. Especially on the west side, where the Atlantic side, the waves crash in over here. They just slowly come in, and we get the sunsets. So yeah,
beautiful.
Living large there.
Do more. I don't take advantage enough. I can see the water here, you know, from my home office. Barely. I can barely see the water. But did you sail out of Marina Del Rey over there?
No, I'm here in South Tampa, and yeah.
Oh no, sorry. I meant for Danish, for Anders.
Yeah. So it took only a little less than an hour to get to Newport Beach, and Newport Beach is just such a great place because they have this much, like a huge harbor, so you can sail around and see a lot, even staying inside, you know, from the Pacific waves, and it's in the nice weather, it's just such a great experience. You have the smell of ocean, and you have fun. You have fun staying wet.
You know, Newport Beach is home to the biggest bond manager maybe in the world. That's PIMCO. I wonder if you overheard any PIMCO conversations, guys talking about Bitcoin and how their multi-trillion-dollar bond portfolio is going to get sunk by the black hole that is Bitcoin.
Andy, we didn't go.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll let you come in afterwards. So we didn't go on a tour, Andy. We rented a boat. Sorry, we were on our own boat. I'm trying to practice for the $100,000 K party. Pubby.
Yeah, it's my question. Look, like you say, you said early on, you know, you come from the dark side. You come from Wall Street, and of course, I'm sure you have friends all over the place there. How many have come to you, especially after December, and said, yeah, you were right. You're right. Or were there so many that were just like, would never buy Bitcoin, that have finally capitulated, or are they just full Peter Schiff, doubling down? It'll never be a thing.
So what you forget maybe about Wall Street guys is they're arrogant pricks, so they never admit they're wrong. No, honestly, some people have come to me and said you were right all along, but most of those people, in fact, maybe all of them that I can think of, are not the Wall Street people. They're the just like friends, family friends, my wife's friends, people who I have spammed relentlessly, with my email list and talked to them, and chilled them on it before. They're the ones who've been gracious and said you were right. The legacy Wall Street guys have come back to me and been like, I'm thinking about getting in now, but I'm worried about the price. And by the way, those comments were coming in at like 20K, right? They were like, oh, it's moved from 16, 17 to over 20. I'm thinking about dipping a toe, is now the time. I had one of those in particular in I guess it must have been November. And I can't remember where price was. I think that would be in the right range. That's right about when we moved toward 20. And he emailed me, I don't know, it was a couple paragraphs. It was all drawn out. And my response was something along the lines of, I don't know, dude, I'm buying more tomorrow. And I did. Right? I was continuing to do my DCA with Swan, but I also, plopped a chunk in. I'm trying to remember. I think it was around 19 and a half. And it was the usual thing happened to me, which was I bought it and then it immediately fell. Right? I bought it at, I think 19 and a half and immediately, went down to 16 and a half. And of course it recovered. The prior sizable purchase I had made, beyond my usual DCA, I think was like 11 and a half. And it immediately went below 10. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was in maybe October, when it was trying to get back above 12 and it went down again. So I'm not a great short-term trader. I'm a pretty terrible short-term trader. But yeah, that was the answer that I gave to that old Wall Street friend who was like, I'm thinking about dipping a toe. I'm thinking about getting in. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I've been, the price target is still much, much higher than the current price.
I've been telling. Yeah, go ahead, Anders.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. It's funny. These people, they're like, wait. I have these two Bitcoin. We crashed to 35,600 right now. I have these alarm bells going up. I have two apps. They're awesome. Like you get either like alarm bells or you get like the cheer, like you're on Wall Street and the price went up. It's really funny.
What are they? What are the apps?
So I have, let me tell you, one is Bitcoin Checker and the other one is Bitcoin Paranoid. And nice. You can set the percentage at which you want trigger these alerts, and it's awesome. Like you get that, or you get the the fireball going off. It's just funny, it doesn't change. And I just want to say, what, Pubby, I'm talking.
I know, but I got to jump in on this.
Okay, jump in. I did. All right, jump in. Look,
your notification. Did you you tell me you didn't change the ringtone? Did you change the ringtone?
I did not change the ringtone. It didn't go off yet, and it may not go off.
So Andy, just a backstory, because we had Katie the Russian on here with us, lovely lady.
Yeah, and Katie Ananina.
Yeah, so we had our little chat room. We have an inside joke about Anders and hookers, and he had a bell go off. And it sounds like a doorbell. And we're talking. We're talking to Annie there, or Katie, and guess what happens? Doorbell goes off, and the chat room just blows up with hookers. Here come the hookers. And so if you hear it go off, don't be surprised if you see a bunch of hooker comments come up.
We know Anders lives well out here in West LA. We know he has a good time, right?
Yeah, but I would never go there, And this is, of course. That being said, I want to get back. I want to change the subject here, and I was going to say something before. Yeah, so these Wall Streeters you were talking about. So when the price was still below 20,000, they're like, "No, Andy, it's cheap. So it's probably like it was higher even 3 years ago. So it's probably just withering away and dying right now. As soon as it hits that 20,000, no, it's too expensive. Guys, can you make up your mind? Why don't you do the research and realize we're going to the millions and then eventually infinity a couple of years later? And well, actually, the time from 3 million to infinity probably won't be more than a couple of months.
It really has been a change in the perception, and it's not all at once, but it for sure this asset has gone in the perception of the general public and in the perception of Wall Street. It's gone from, I don't want to say toxic waste, but like pretty stinky. It's gone from pretty stinky to almost must own, right, in the period of a few months. And of course, they have to do their homework. They got to read Why Buy Bitcoin. They got to read my book, right? And they'll get up the curve. They got to listen to your podcast. They got to do some reading, and they'll get there eventually. Some have already gotten there. I think that at this point, it's just, man, it's hard to ignore. As you say, it took out the old all-time high, and it took it out by a lot, right? Not by a little, which doesn't mean that, we're necessarily safe up here. We'll see how we trade, but, and the path of most pain, which is usually the path that is traveled, suggests we could get a test to the downside again. I don't know, or maybe we just continue out of this, this narrowing wedge and hit new highs. But yeah, it's hard to ignore the best. It was already the best performing asset, as you know, of the decade ended December 31st, 2019, right? Already the best performing asset. And then we had 2020 and it went up by a multiple. It's like, guys, are you really not paying attention to this? And then you got insurance companies in, and you got hedge fund managers, and you got corporate balance sheets, Michael Saylor. And I mean, how can you ignore this thing? I don't understand it. How are people still ignoring it?
That's a question I have for anytime a guest on the show, especially one that deals with different boards. What aren't they seeing? I mean, how many years we're at 12 years now. What, you're going to wait till 25 years? 25 years, and it's how many $1 million? And you say, hey, maybe this Bitcoin thing's around. The internet wasn't avoided this long.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess it's money. This is one of the things. One of the things that I sort of touched down on this article on Bitcoin Magazine recently was the human psychology. There's certain sort of base, I guess, triggers, or sort of moral foundations in our minds. We think, psychologists think. I mean, look, it's a psychological theory, so take it with a large grain of salt. But there seems to be some visceral reactions we have to certain things, and there's this, there's this notion of basically sanctity and degradation. And for some people, for some reason, money has sanctity associated with it. It's like this thing that they just have learned. Maybe it's been inculcated. Maybe it's because it literally says "In God We Trust" on the dollar bill, right? And there's all this like weird sacred, imagery that government has basically associated with the money. And some people, a large percentage of people, they just react viscerally. I think they just some people just can't get their head around it. And you're going to have to literally, number go up is going to just have to beat them over the head until they finally submit. So what percent of people, are in that category that it's like, the base layer, the lizard part of the brain just takes over versus the cognition? I don't know, but it seems to be a significant percentage.
Yeah. So, do you mind, Pubby? Can I say something as well? Or?
If you want.
Am I going to have to start moderating you guys? Am I going to?
Yeah.
That, you know what? That's what we get moving forward. We'll have the guest be the moderator, and this is how Pubby gets to talk.
Yeah. See, I had a train of thought. Pubby just knocked it out of my head. But what I will say is, it's amazing how people, like in pretty much the entire humanity, has been brainwashed to, it is good for you that we dilute the value of your savings month after month after month. And people are like, Yeah, they told me because that's how we can keep people in jobs. Well, people had jobs before the Federal Reserve started stealing your savings. Also, I want to say on what we talked about before that. Look, bubbles in the past, they have been what, like 1 year, 2 year, maybe 3 years max, and then they collapse. But now we have the best performing asset for 12 years, and it takes balls to ignore the best performing asset. You have a fiduciary duty to your family, to your loved ones. Imagine deciding not to research and educate yourself on the best performing assets for 12 years when there's people screaming, have fun staying poor if you don't look at this. And they ignore it and like, no, the government says, really? You're going to buy that?
That's right. And, this is going to sound sanctimonious, but, I've been spamming, friends and family for years on this stuff, right? Including, people that I'm not that close with, and they're not necessarily friends and family, they're contacts, mostly old business contacts. And, I've been hitting them with this stuff. And, I'm a financial advisor, which means, if you're not my client, but I'm spamming you about Bitcoin, and it doesn't work out, you could come back, potentially. I worry a little bit about liability, right? Nevertheless, I made this decision, which is this is too important to, be silent on. I'm willing to take this risk basically to get people on board because I really want, I want people to be rich. I want people to be financially secure. I want them at least to not have fun staying poor. And so, it becomes harder. It becomes a little harder and riskier to recommend, the higher the price goes and the farther we go into the cycle. But, it's just, you do what you got to do to try and help people understand it. And to your comment about inflation a moment ago, this is the way I've been approaching the inflation concept recently with people. I say, let's say I start from a blank slate. Let's say I'm creating a system of money and I have 4 requirements. Okay. The first is it must have an embedded system of taxation, right? That's inflation. The second thing is the quantity of the taxation must be unmeasurable, at least with any fidelity, right? Because as we know, like measuring inflation, the measurements of inflation are bullshit, basically. At least what we know is that we can't do it with any with any precision, not least because everyone's inflation level, mine, yours is different because we consume different baskets of goods. My third requirement is that the tax must be taxation without representation, right? It must be some stuffy board of mostly white guys who decide the interest rates and the amount of money printing and inflation. And then the last requirement is it must be regressive, right? This tax must hit the poor hardest as a percentage of their savings. And then I say, voila, that's the monetary system. And people struggle with that a little bit, but I think it's a fun way to sort of set the table on how many negative factors are associated with or are endemic to this monetary system we've got today. And I don't know, it's hard to break through to people, but I'm always trying to think of new ways to pitch it, anything that works. Memes are the best, of course.
So Andy, I just want to say, Lauren says hi to you. Daniel is watching with his daughter, Lauren, and she's saying hi. Pubby, your turn.
Yeah, I listen, like I heard something you guys mentioned earlier on another podcast, and I think you described it as a medium of exchange. Stored value and unit of account are a derivative from the medium of exchange.
Yep.
And my understanding, though, well, when I came to Bitcoin was, well, a medium of exchange should be the derivative of a stored value, which I think we're seeing played out with Bitcoin. How do you explain that?
Yeah, no, and here's how I explain it. And by the way, it's my view. It doesn't mean it's right, but I like the framework, and I think it may have been Breedlove, who first articulated this to me, which was it's a medium of exchange across space-time, right? Across space and time. And if you frame it as medium of exchange across space and time, then store of value is embedded in the medium of exchange across time.
Sure.
So, it's I think you could look at it either way. I think you could look at it as you framed it, but I think of it as medium of exchange across space-time, and everything, flows from that. And that's the Austrians, really. I mean, that's the smart. way smarter guys than me figured this out, 100 years ago. I mean, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Mises. It was probably Mises. I don't think it was Menger, who really focused on the store of value concept. And of course, he was thinking about gold. But yeah, these brilliant guys figured out a long time ago. And shout out to Lauren, by the way. She should take over Princey's podcast. I think she's ready. Princey, might be time to, as Satoshi did, move on to other things.
Yeah, you know what? Satoshi had the honor to leave when he wasn't required. Princey, it's your turn.
Exactly. Oh man.
Yeah. So since I come, no, it's all right, Puppy. Since I come extremely, let's say, unprepared, I do have an envelope that I didn't open yet that I always write down some questions on. I always have something, to be prepared, unprepared. And I have a question here that I didn't scribble out yet. We want to know about the bull run. What's your expectations for this bull run that I think we can agree we're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious that we're in a bull market. And this is the this gets to the old Mr. Partridge, this character from Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, classic investing book, who, some young trader tells him, hey, I got a sure tip that, the stock you own, the news is gonna come out and it's gonna fall, right? Price is gonna go down. And it's good information. And of course, he doesn't act on it. And the guy comes back and says, well, I gave you that tip, stock's down. Like, did you sell it? Or even did you short it? And Partridge explains, obviously I didn't short it, because the worst thing that can happen in a bull market is I get shaken out of my position and I don't get back in. And we are in a bull market. So just a reminder, right, to the traders out there. Bitcoin Tina does a good job, reminding people about this. But yeah, as far as what we're going to see in this bull market, it's hard to not see six figures. Where in the six figures? That's the question. I'm reminded that the time cycle, this kind of hit me the other day, which is the peak, if it follows the recent patterns of the last few halvings, could hit us by late summer. I mean, it's not that far away, right? Like, it could happen 6 months from now. People, I had sort of in my mind been thinking about, December 7th of 17 and thinking, oh, I got till December. And no, probably not, because as you know, the 4-year cycles aren't really 4-year cycles. They get shorter because the mining happens, faster. And so, yeah, it could go. I'm fairly confident of six figures. I am less confident of 300K, and I would be, we talked about the 20%, probability that it moons and, goes to seven figures. That's possible, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not bullish enough. I'm not going to be Mr. Moonbags. We're definitely going to go to 500,000 plus. That's kind of how I see it. And of course, I have to acknowledge that maybe it won't, because maybe I'm wrong. But the scenarios in which we're wrong are like something really significant has to happen. Like, government has to balance the budget, or right,
yeah.
or the system has to stop cranking out blocks approximately every 10 minutes. And if those things don't happen, number probably goes up.
So these aren't necessarily tied together. And I like your predictions. Right now, man, until the model gets broken, man, I'll stick with Plan B. I'll ride that for a while. He offered up something free to the community, and he offered it up when Bitcoin was at its almost lowest point historically. So, man, and shout out to him. One of the things I heard on your show, because one of the things that Michael Saylor brought to the plate to me was putting on the balance sheet. I know the macro guys, you and Preston, may have talked about it behind the scenes. I had never, I always saw it as the meme of exchange, hyperbitcoinization. But to hear a guy put it on the balance sheet and say, I'm not touching it for 100 years, it just changed my narrative a bit. Something you talked about with Stefan Livera was Bitcoin, like in retirement accounts, but especially like a Roth. I thought was so interesting. Yeah, a Roth, you're paying to get around sort of the tax issue is you're using post-tax dollars to buy this. And I believe the rules, you probably know more about the Roth than I do, but I think it's after 5 years, you can pull your initial gains without penalty. But damn, you could just, if you know every 5 year, 210,000 blocks or 4 years, a Roth it's a brilliant idea. Can you expound upon that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the Roth, Pubby. I have Bitcoin in my Roth for obvious reasons. What you described is like, okay,
Well,
what Roth money is it's, as you said, after tax money. So you pay your taxes, you put it in the Roth, and then under current law, it accumulates forever, right?
Tax.
With no tax. Okay,
Right.
it's amazing. There's also, by the way, some other subtleties too, which is compared to a regular IRA, it's better in a couple ways. One is with a regular IRA, that's where you use pre-tax money, but you pay your taxes as you draw the funds out later. Roths don't have a required minimum distribution, again, under current law. A regular IRA, once you hit like age 72, you actually got to start taking the money out. With a Roth, again, under current law, you don't. So, people thinking about this, multi-generationally, or at least to the next generation, it's a better vehicle, basically for leaving assets to your kids than a regular IRA. And then another consideration, we're going to get a little technical here, is tax rates, right? Using an IRA, with pre-tax money and paying the tax later versus paying your taxes now, you might ask yourself, well, what's the tax rate going to be in future? Is it going to be higher or lower than my current tax rate now? And it's different for different people. I tend to think we're going to see higher taxes, a decade from now. If Bitcoin, breaks the system, and tax collection changes, well, then, who knows what it all looks like. But that's another consideration. But the other thing is mathematically, and it's hard to talk about, it's easier to see on paper, but an IRA and a Roth are mathematically equivalent in terms of the value you have at the very end, except for what I mentioned about not having to take required minimum distributions when you're 72, and except for the assumption that you pay your taxes with Roth money versus regular taxable money. In other words, when you're paying your income tax now, you create a net benefit using not the Roth assets. Obviously, you use your regular assets outside to pay your income tax now and then put money in the Roth. But the Roth, anyway, suffice to say, the Roth is not to be missed. It's a really powerful tool. And there are limits to how much income you can have to fund one. In other words, I think it's like 190K or something. If you have over 190K, you can't contribute to a Roth. However, there's a back door. There's a rule that allows you to contribute to a regular IRA with post-tax money and then do a Roth conversion. Okay, this is a backdoor. It's literally called a backdoor Roth. It's something that people don't think about sometimes. And so if you have under 190K of income, great. Fund your Roth and put it in. Put some in Bitcoin. And if you got income that's higher than that, do a backdoor one. And I see Greg says, does Andy think the laws will change? Sadly, yes. Do I expect attempts at a wealth tax someday? Yes, I do. When will that happen? I don't know. All bets are off, right? What we know, we've been spoiled. Our worldview has been ruined by Bitcoin. What we know is that the system is insolvent and it will grasp at anything that it can to try and recover its solvency. And changes in tax policy, I think, will be one of those things it tries to do.
Just to interject on something, because basically you said the tax differences between the typical 401k IRA and a Roth, pre-tax versus post-tax. But basically, to me, it depends on what your salary is. Because look, if you're at a low tax rate, you're making a Roth is your answer. However, if you got a high salary, you got to go in. So there's a difference there on who can take advantage of it. But better than that by Bitcoin.
Totally right. And that's what I was talking about with the, what's your tax rate today versus your tax rate in future.
Yeah.
If you have high income now, then it doesn't make as much sense to pay your taxes up front. Although your age matters too, right? So like if you're in your 30s, even if you have high income, the net benefit of accumulating, through the Roth over a very long period of time can potentially outweigh even a difference in tax rates between, today and the future. So something to think about. And it's okay to have both also. It's okay to have diversification amongst your tax character. It's okay to have some IRA assets. It's okay to have some Roth assets. That way, if you're, quote unquote, wrong about one of them, then you were right with the other.
Can't disagree.
But the same diversification argument does not apply to shitcoins, for the record.
Hey, a perfect segue, because I was going to ask you, obviously you're just all in on Bitcoin. Do you get people that now may come to you and say, "Oh my God, look at this XRP, look at this Litecoin, because that ship has sailed. I missed it. Let's try to grab this next one." And we all know there is no next one.
Yeah.
But do you get people calling you?
I still get the diversification, question, or I get the, what about Ether? What about proof of stake? And those conversations are, you hew to the usual things like the only immutable one is Bitcoin. The only decentralized one is Bitcoin. The only one that's been cranking out, proof of work blocks for over a decade and isn't trying to change to, a different consensus mechanism is Bitcoin. It's the one that has the network effect. I had a conversation actually last night with an old friend who's really smart. He's in tech. He's done well for himself. He does, AI stuff. He does machine learning, algorithm design, basically, and implementation. And yeah, he asked about I'm interested in Ether. And I had the conversation, which is like, we could have this conversation in 2017, right? When Ether was just moving like a rocket and people were talking about, could we get a flippening? Could it overtake Bitcoin? We're past that stage, man. I mean, it's just it's Bitcoin is the winner. Like, that's what else can you say?
Absolutely. Andy, I want to hear your take on, because something really, really big happened. I think most of us agreed to a few weeks ago with Jack Mallers announcing a strike. So I can send money to South America. I can send $2 instantly without any conversion in the fiat currency exchange. So no longer does it take 3 bank days or 2 bank days, and there's not a $15 fee of receiving a wire transfer. It's just instant and free going over the Lightning network. So, and I was playing around with it a little bit yesterday, and I realized, so I can also send from my Strike account that I fill it up from my bank account. I can also just send 100,000 sats worth to a Lightning wallet. So because it's running over Lightning, so I made yesterday like a $36 smash buy. I know it's small maybe, but hey, it's still money.
Big baller, big baller.
Big baller, $36 purchase right there. Smash, boom, changed the price of Bitcoin. But I did like an instant non-fee purchase of Bitcoin, sending money from my Strike to my Lightning network wallet. And is that really without any fee when it's converted? I mean, it seems ridiculous. It seems
too good to be true, doesn't it? I mean, my hat's off to Jack. And look, I'll be honest with you. I haven't played around with it. I haven't used it. As advertised, though, I think it's pretty awesome. It makes you wonder, how it's possible and what the mechanics are on the back end. And it's one of those things where just a good example of amazing, new product, amazing new implementation, amazing new layer being built on Bitcoin. Layer 3, I guess you would argue, base network plus Lightning plus Strike. And man, I wish I had enough hours in the day to get into the weeds on this stuff, and maybe I will at some point. But I hope we see massive adoption. I hope we see it all over the world, right? I hope it actually turns into a real remittance rail, because that's been one of the holy grails of Bitcoin for so many years, right? Is like, how can we turn this into the rails, to allow, let's face it, relatively poor people, working their asses off in rich countries, getting money home to their families. And so I'm really optimistic for it. Yeah, I almost can't believe that it works as advertised, but nobody's proven otherwise yet.
So that's a perfect thing, because obviously in the West here, we love the number go up technology. Obviously, we can take care of some of this. Part of what I do with my job, I get to travel a lot. I've been to over 100 countries in the world. And
international man of mystery, international pub lord of mystery.
I only bring it up because when you see the countries, when you're through Africa and Asia, and when you travel and you find out how many of those countries, they live by the remittance. They have family overseas to send money back to them to survive. Okay, and when you can take out some evil Western Union bullshit, I don't know, 20%, whatever. If Jack Mallers is new, I mean, you talk about the humanitarian part of Bitcoin. That's it for me, man. We all have our different views of it, but that's just one aspect of. I mean, that literally will save lives.
I agree. Literally. I have some stats in my book, right? Remittances globally, that's a $500 billion annual flow, right? Hundreds of billions of dollars flowing to, basically low income, on average, poor families. The poorest, some of the poorest people in the world. And as you say, between 7 and 20 percentage points of fees, plus the time they waste, on either end, getting their check, getting on the bus, going to cash it, sometimes in dangerous places. And it's a I think the way I described it in my book was, this 20 point VIG, that these remittance services charge. A capitalist would call that a business opportunity, and a humanitarian would call it highway robbery. Highway robbery is what it is. And so, if we can disrupt that, I say we. It's not we. It's Jack and his team of geniuses over there. That would be a tremendous. It would be both a tremendous gain for the world, and it's also, let's be honest, I mean, it's a great headline for Bitcoin, right?
Agreed. Anders.
We like it. 2 thumbs up.
Gigi called it Bitcoin just had its voice over IP moment, same as we were using internet and we could send emails and stuff. And then, once we figured out to use voice, and we can actually no longer pay $2 to call another country, but just talk for free. And that's pretty much what Jack and his team created for Bitcoin here, that all of a sudden is like a huge leap in value creation. Like, we all expect that in the future, when we're all on Bitcoin, we'll send Lightning transactions to each other. But he created that same functionality that we can send money to each other with no fees and instantly, while we're still the majority of the world is still, at the end of the day, using fiat currency.
I love that framing. And Gigi is so smart. Hats off to for that realization. Yeah, I think that it's true that Bitcoin, the hope for Bitcoin base layer, was basically instant and free. But the reality is, it took another layer or two to achieve that. And wow, what a huge win. What a huge win. It makes me think of the long distance cell phone bills, Sprint back in the day. Do you guys remember those ads? It was like incessant. It was when TV was actually linear TV. It was literally the long distance companies made so much freaking money, right? Charging long distance bills, before it all got turned into VoIP. My God, what a business.
Yeah, I remember. So I'm quite a bit older, I think, than you guys. But I remember the first time I saw a cell phone, I was at university, and there's this dude there. He's got he's got this thing strapped around his side with a big box, which I found out was a battery for a cell phone. And basically, he was the campus bookie. He's the first guy I ever saw. He was because he could call Vegas, and yeah, so that's the first time I ever saw a cell phone, man.
And what a perfect case study in gambling and or fringe activities being early adopters of technology, right? You get
porn and gambling. Yeah,
that's right, man. Porn and gambling. Love it.
Yeah, and I forgot he was on Toxic Happy Hour. He called it gambling and fringe activities. But glad you corrected him. Yeah. You're solid. You're a nice guy, Andy. We appreciate that.
I'm too clean. For you guys here. Maybe next time we'll do it. We'll do an evening slot. I'll have a couple of drinks, and then the gloves will come off.
So, Andy, let me rephrase or recap here. You talked about you would pull it out. It was your book. It was your book. I mean, your book, right? Then there was another thing that I forgot was pretty a legendary statement as well. And now you said we're going to do an evening slot. I really appreciate what you bring to the Toxic Happy Hour. Not only are you a visionary, you bring some great commentary. I appreciate that.
Well, you guys are a blast. Really appreciate it. This has been a ton of fun. Thanks to everybody in the chat. So many friends, as well as some new folks that I don't know. You guys make this fun, man. It's the audience. It's the people that are interacting. This is what makes Bitcoin great. The best, I like to say these days, the best thing about Bitcoin is you.
I think back to the Federalist Papers, and someone had written, America was the first country ever argued or reasoned into existence. It's because of all these letters. I offer up that Bitcoin, it will be the monetary supply that was memed into existence. We will take them down one meme at a time, man.
I love it.
Yeah. So Pubby, I gotta apologize to you for me calling out some of the things Andy said. Immediately he went into the sign off there. Sorry, chat, for ending the show on such an honest note. I'm kidding. So Andy, if you consider this the sign off, we will let you go. Pubby and I will continue. It's up to Pubby, because either he'll do a bear exit scam or we can actually continue. But Andy, thank you so much for coming on. The most visionary man of 2020, in my opinion, honestly. And I want you to do some sign-offs here. Plug your book again, please. Explain your book and let people know on which version of Amazon they can buy it. And anything you want to plug. And Andy's Twitter is in the description below. So go check it out and follow this visionary guy if you want to know what's happening in the future.
Oh, thanks, Anders. You're really kind. You give me too much credit. And of course, here comes the shill roll. Twitter is Edstrom Andrew. That's Twitter handle. The book is Why Buy Bitcoin? Investing Today and the Money of Tomorrow. Get it on Amazon. Swan Bitcoin. I work with Swan Bitcoin /Andy, $10 free Bitcoin if you want a dollar cost average. And, if you want to see my other podcast appearances, basically I've got, I think, most of them up on andyedstrom.com. So this has been a real pleasure, guys. Anders, we got to hang out, man. We got to hang out here in LA soon. Pubby, you're the man. I hope to get to Florida sometime soon. I don't know if I will, but the whole world's moving in your direction. You're on the right side of history over there.
Oh, yeah.
So as you say, Florida, Wyoming, Texas.
Hey, give me a call and we'll hang. I just, what's really cool about this space is one of the guys that plays professional soccer here, Lucky Mkasana. I just met him the other day. So me, you, Lucky, will go out. We'll talk Bitcoin. Have a few beers.
Love it, man. I was a soccer player back in the day. I was a very average soccer player. We had a good team. I was lucky to be able to roll with them. But good stuff.
Which position did you play, Andy?
I played midfield and I played defense. I was often sort of sweeper position, last defender. But yeah, mostly defense. I wasn't fast enough, honestly, to play striker. I was a hell of a slide tackler. Lots of injuries to myself and others. I don't want to say I was that dirty of a player by at least by, I don't know, European or British standards. Shout out to Princey over there. But that was how I rolled.
Yeah, you know what? Way too lucky because he's the most down to earth guy, and we had a great conversation because he's from Zimbabwe, and you know what happened with the Zimbabwe. So he's got such a fascinating story, and there's a podcast he did with Daniel Prince as well. You should listen to. But fantastic.
I think I may have heard that episode. I listened to almost every one of Princey's episodes, so I'd be surprised if I missed it. But I should go back and check on it. He had one with a boxer too recently, whose name escapes me now. That's another good one. So right on, guys. All right, I got to hop. It's been a blast.
Yep.
Thanks again. We'll do it again if you guys are game sometime. And thanks to everyone listening and watching.
Yeah. So before you exit, I just want to let everyone know that we'll exit at the same time as well. That be careful storing more value in fiat currency that you can afford to lose. It's a built-in policy that they will wipe out the value of your savings every single year. So be careful. Consider Bitcoin. It's not financial advice, even though we have the most visionary financial advice of last year here. It is just friendly opinion. Thank you, Andy.
Do go on Danish. Say it one more time.
I will do that on the next show. Andy, thanks for saying you're willing to come back. We will absolutely. I already look forward to it. And yes, let's hang around the Mar Vista area. I will do my part to guarantee a great time. And I forgot to put the phone on silence. It's gone.
Is that a doorbell?
No, it wasn't. It was the phone. There was no doorbell this time, guys. This is early. We started 8:30 due to this military style.
My fault.
Andy knows better for next time.
That's right. We'll do evening next time around.
Hey, so Andy, I'm sort of on the macro tour. You know, we've had Preston on here. We've had you, but we're looking for Lynn and Luke. What do you think? Would they be good? They'd be good on the show, right?
Of course, they'd be good. Those guys are awesome. I will vouch. You know, Lynn and Luke. This show is fun. You should do this show. Get on here. Get them in.
Yeah.
Shout it out.
Yeah. So, and on that note, and it's hard to leave the show. We don't really let people go. I'm so sorry, Andy. So, when you really want to go, just like close your computer or something like that. But I just want to say, I listened to Lynn and Luke on Preston's podcast. Totally recommend that. Last night I listened to Steven Levera, who had Plan B on, and they spoke like updated expectations to the bull one. Fantastic as well. So
I listened to all those episodes. I'm a total degenerate podcast listener, just like all of us out there, and they were both great. I mean, everything Stefan puts out is great. Everything Preston puts out is great. I mean, I couldn't agree more. People should check out those episodes. And with that, I will sign off, gentlemen. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Ciao, Bella. All right, man.
And soon.
See ya.
All right.
All right. That's it. There we go. Okay, Puppy. Free Andy was trending on Twitter there for a few minutes. I understand. He of course was being captive here. No, so Puppy, the big question now is, can I reset my node and be back like in 2 minutes? Will you be here? That's the big question. Do you still have time to hang out, or what's the story?
Well, can we do like we'll do like 5 minutes? How's that?
All right, yeah, sure. Okay, you got to go. That's fine. It is public a holiday, and we have family to consider. So, oh wow, Knut was still around.
They're also well.
Oh, and by the way, so we have Knut on 25th, so Monday,
Yep.
1 week from now, we have Knut on.
Yep.
I believe that is 11 a.m. PST. I'm going to schedule it this afternoon, throw it up, send out a link on Twitter, around primetime Twitter.
No, listen, I mean, do you want to do, I'm trying to think if should I go over to the pub or should I just hang here? Do you guys want to do like just a green room show? I don't know.
I honestly think
look,
the only way that you and I will have above 4 viewers live at any given time is probably we need to continue now the momentum of having Andy on. Right now there's 32
still 20.
32 live viewers. So if you can, I mean, you can run to the fridge and grab another IPA if you can do that. Can you survive not going directly to the pub? Because we'll come back with 4 live viewers. Right now we have 32. What do you prefer, Puppy?
No, that's cool. No, or we can just hang out with the boys. That's fine.
What
you want to do mean? Like yeah.
You mean go on live again later or stay now? I don't know.
No. We'll stay now because no. We'll stay now. Just tell people we're coming back.
Right. Yeah. No. We're live right now, so they can hear. They can hear.
I didn't even know.
I'm sad you didn't embarrass yourself more, not knowing that we were still live.
No, we're good.
But why don't we give you first the chance to exit and come back on screen? You're like, don't close your computer, don't close your mobile, don't open the closet. Just go do your node reset, grab a couple of cold ones,
do you know how many bodies will fall out of this closet? Not as many as yours, but there's a few.
No, those are called skeletons. You got skeletons coming at your closet.
Hey, I'll be back in a few.
Yeah.
Yep. Hang on.
All right, and hereby exits scams Puppy. I will probably not see him back on if we look at how history. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Any questions? Not that I think you guys want to know my answer, but let's see here. Puppy's gone full passive aggressive mode. Get the beers in, lads. I will. So I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really have breakfast, but I will bottle up a little breakfast when Puppy's back on. This is true. So anything else going on in the chat? I mean, I gotta say, I think this episode with Andy was really, really fun, and also, man, that guy is smart. And I can say that now without him being here. All right, so let's get some bets going on here. 10-1, Pubby doesn't come back. Does that mean there's a? So I'm not very good with American betting. Does that mean there's a high chance he's not coming back, or what is that? So for breakfast, Chair, I know you're killing me for getting more healthy, but coffee was kind of my breakfast. I do take some milk in the coffee, but I will unbottle some more breakfast soon because why not? Why not? And then I won't probably eat the rest of the day. That's right, Marty. You know it. Beer is actually an acceptable breakfast. So the big question is when and if Puppy will come back on, or if he'll just leave me totally high and dry here, as he's done the last couple of times. Chair. So I'm talking beer. No BTC Moon guy. Not yogurt today. I'm actually out of yogurt, so it's going to be beer. I think that's a decent replacement. But I mean, to sum it up, to sum up the entire episode with Andy, I would say buy more Bitcoin. I think that's my conclusion. So, Puppy, can you? And what do you have? What do you have there? Not you like that IPA? I see that on a regular basis. This is the Sierra Nevada.
If you're watching Sierra Nevada and want to sponsor us, we can be bought.
Right. So Knut, no, I run out of ribeye. Let me tell you a little bit of story about ribeye. So I used to live in Dubai for many years, more than a decade actually. There was a butcher that had amazing quality meat. I got these Australian, like a whole steak ribeye, like really huge, and then I would go home and just cut it into pieces, freeze them, and then yeah, that was. And then of course I had a barbecue in my garden, and it was just amazing to have those. I used to do a marinade that was partly white wine, olive oil, soy sauce, and then lots of garlic. It was really great. Pubby, I'll give the word to you now, but first I have a question. Will you be here when I come back after just doing a quick node reset node run? Will you be here?
That's affirmative.
All right, cool. Be right back.
Hey, all you bastards in the chat, I love you. So what's going on? Let's see here. Yep. Got it. Oh, he came back. Ribeye yogurt. Beer isn't acceptable breakfast. Man, you guys are tough. You guys are tough. Open the closet. No way the closet's going to be opened up there. Like you said, too many skeletons in there. Any other questions? Canute, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm down in Tampa, so yeah, bring your family down, whatever. We'll hang out. Just be careful. I see too many English and Germans just getting sunburned. So bring your sunscreen. Sarasota is fantastic. Sarasota is very interesting. It's actually one of my favorite places in Florida because you have a lot of the retirees there it's quite a cultured area, man. You actually get decent theater, you get decent orchestras that come through. So yeah, Sarasota is good.
So pretty good to hear. I had an idea that Andy was in LA. So Mar Vista is not too far from me. That's a short Uber drive. And yeah, I think we'll do some steaks and barbecue and a couple of cold ones and have a good time.
Yeah, we gotta bring it. Hey, listen, when the bet happens, you should bring him along. We'll go to Burns.
When
you gotta buy, yeah. If you like, yeah, just bring Andy along.
That's a great idea. We can maybe you can lend us your non-public jet there and pick Andy and I up, and we'll come down and I'll buy you that Happy Meal at Burns.
Hey, a shout out to Canute that he went to Samurai Blue in Ybor City. Yeah, that is a great sushi place. Canute, come back, man. We'll hang out for sure.
Hey, yo, Canute, if you want to come on now and do another gate crash, you were the first gate crasher. You know what? Yeah. I'm just gonna send it to Knut. We'll see if
bring him on.
Pick it up or not.
Yep.
Because Knut is the original gate crasher in on Toxic Happy Hour. Let me see. Where is my DM with? All right. Yep. Let me just search on Knut. Carry on.
Bring him on. No. Yeah. Look, bring Knut on. I'll exit stage right this time instead of left.
So Knut, you have a link to join the party in your Twitter DMs.
Hey, he made gate crashing cool even before Preston came in.
Yeah, Preston saw how cool Knut was and said, "Hey, I'm gonna crash some THH right here," and he did. And how great was it to have Preston on with Pierre? I mean, like each of them in itself it would be such an awesome show and discussion. And then we have these two brilliant minds discussing with each other. Let's see. Knut is saying wife size. Yeah. Here come Knut. So
it's all about the book sales, right? Just tell the wife. I'm selling books, baby. I'm selling books.
Here come Knut.
Hi there.
Welcome. And And okay. I thought Pubby took the opportunity to exit scam, but
No.
he's back on screen. Welcome
No.
on, dude. Good to have you
Thank you.
again.
Yeah, nice to be back. I guess I'll be back again in a week.
Yes.
Yeah, I just heard that you're in Tampa, Pubby, and Ybor
Yeah,
City.
man.
I just wanted to tell a story from there. My
Tell it.
wife was sitting beside me here just before, but she left. She sighed and walked out on me. But I saved her life in Ybor City once at Samurai Blue. The thing was, the first time we went to Tampa with the tall ship I was on, I got to play a gig at a place in Ybor City, just playing acoustic guitar and singing at a wine bar there in the middle of Ybor City. I don't remember the name of the place,
Uh-huh.
but sort of a hippie kind of place. And afterwards, this guy that saw me play, he invited us all for dinner at Samurai Blue. So we had some great sushi there, about 8 of us, and all of a sudden my wife stands up from her chair, and she's just panicking, and something has happened, and she's grasping for air. So I spontaneously did a Heimlich maneuver on her. I didn't even know I had it in me, but
Wow.
a long string of cucumber flew out her nose.
Oh, she's gonna kill you now.
So, and then there was this other guy with us who said, "Ha ha ha, man! Now every time she's giving you a hard time, you can always say, remember that time in Florida, honey, when I saved your life." So that's my Tampa story. One of my Tampa stories.
That's what is on the Toxic Happy Hour. You start with an Andy Edstrom, and you get a life-saving story from Knut Svanholm. That's fantastic.
I would say Knut's gate crashing is probably my favorite. Well, I mean, those president, but Knut's gate crashing never disappoints. Let's put it that way. You get a life-saving story right there within 5 minutes. So what are you drinking today, Knut?
Mostly vitamin C. I think I have a cold coming. Yeah. And some coffee.
She called COVID?
Yeah. No, I think it's Novid.
Novid. All right.
So
I don't know.
So I had to jump out earlier because once you got to be on your toes here. But I jumped over because guess what? Look what I'm reading.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're halfway through?
Yep. I'm halfway through. I would say I'm one of those guys. I use a highlighter when I read, and I like to. There's certain points that interest me, but I love to go back a few years later on books and reread it, or I can quickly go through with the highlighter. But I like to see how my view has changed on books, or that's really different. But yeah, this is fantastic, man. Going through, and I can't wait once I'm finished and have some notes down to talk to you on the official Toxic Happy Hour.
Yeah, I hope I remember anything I wrote back then.
Well,
and why I wrote it.
That's funny. I asked that question to Andy. Is Bitcoin is such a organically ever evolving thing in my mind, and what your view is at one point changes substantially within months. From this book, is there anything you would have redone? Can you give us a quick synopsis?
No, I sort of view anything you write or anything you record or anything you do as sort of encapsulated in that time, at that point in time when you did it. So well, you can make things more or less timeless, I guess, but this book sort of reflects that period of time, and it since I just finished it just before Corona hit, and maybe we'll get shut down now because I said an evil word on YouTube. But but it's sort of hard to. I still. I guess sovereignty through mathematics is a bit more general, and this is a bit more like time stamped. But I don't know. But let's take the questions about the book next next time when I'm a bit.
All right, let's dive into that on Monday for sure.
Yeah.
Knut, I'm wondering. I don't know if you're comfortable saying which country you're in. I think you probably are. But what I want to know is the place that you are right now in Scandinavia. What is the Bitcoin scene like? What's the Bitcoin meetup scene? What's the mood amongst Bitcoiners?
Oh, there's hardly anything here. I mean, people, as always in a bull run, people start asking me questions and get more interested as following the price. The interest in Bitcoin follows price, and price follows interest in Bitcoin, right? So, but it has not really taken off here, and people are still very reluctant to rethink their concept of money and nations and all of these things. I mean, it's quite a leap, quite a mental leap, especially for Swedes that have Stockholm syndrome for the state.
That's a good one, and I think you're right. But I think it's a matter of, in general, in Scandinavia, people are very comfortable. They have good lives. They have safe lives. You don't really worry too much about crime or poverty because you don't have to worry about it. There's a high level of education. There's a social security system. There's great free education. There's great free health. We have
not
roads
free,
that are
not
sorry?
free. It's not free. It's slightly more expensive. It's state funded.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
I'm jumping in.
Public things. Public things are not public. They're definitely not free.
I'm jumping on this one. I'm jumping on this one, Anders, because look, I'm surrounded by a couple Scandinavians, but yeah, don't give me this free is free because I've seen your tax rates. I know what you pay in taxes.
Yeah, it's definitely not free.
True.
Yeah.
True. The marginal cost for you as a consumer, I guess, that people. The thing is, I see the difference in Denmark. I see the difference here, and here. If you're not in the top 1%, health is an unknown financial cost. So it's not free in Scandinavia. You're absolutely right. You pay a very high tax.
Yeah.
But you know what? That tax, instead of going to the world's greatest military, it goes to that. So if you are at the bottom of society, you can still go in and get not cured, but I mean, you get treated for cancer or anything else.
But I'm not so sure that I mean, I would prefer a bit more transparency about where the money actually goes, because I think we're paying off some central banker somewhere rather than like I mean, most of it is still debt, right?
Agreed. So that's actually this is a really interesting thing you're touching upon, because I think a lot of Bitcoiners believe that with the story of Jekyll Island, or whatever that book was called, about how the central bank actually is the creature of Jekyll Island, right? So a lot of us believe that the central bank in the United States, the Federal Reserve, is actually a private entity created by the richest people in the United States. It is, yeah. And it's also, you can't audit it. What I often wondered, Knut, is, so when you come to countries like Denmark, Sweden, or Norway, or other Western American friendly countries, who owns the central banks there, in your opinion?
Well, the Swedish central bank is the oldest central bank in the world, I believe. And well, who owns it? I guess it's state-owned on paper, but on paper it's like what they do. I mean, it doesn't really matter who owns it, because it's the mechanics at play, and there's always someone making a shit ton of money from the whole process, and it's called the Cantillon effect. And you know about that, Pubby. You probably read that in the book by now. I think it's chapter 4. named after a guy called Richard Cantillon, who lived like 400 years ago, who concluded that the closer you are to the source of the money, the more you benefit from money printing. And it's quite logical and quite easy to see, and that if you get the cheap loans before everyone else, then you benefit a lot from it. And that's why we have these monopolies in big tech, and like you talked about before with Tesla and Elon Musk. He gets while he doesn't necessarily produce a big income flow, his stock is valued a lot because of the Cantillon effect to a large extent. He's close to the money printer, and he can get therefore get cheap loans.
We all want the M0 money, don't we? M0, it's not even money. You know, it's a license to literally
enslave the world.
You just steal.
The thing people don't realize about the Fed is like we think that the money printing in the US is weird, and if you're a Bitcoiner, you do by default. You don't like the Fed and the money printing there, and you don't like the handouts because they're funded by money printing, and Donald Trump is sort of a socialist, handing out money to people, or was sort of a socialist. Anyway, what we don't realize is that printing, when the Fed prints new money or goes brr, or quantitatively eases the system, they steal from not only Americans but everyone else.
Absolutely.
If the handouts had been tax funded, only Americans would have paid for it. But since the dollar is the world's reserve currency, everyone's paying. Because they're printing it out of thin air, and it's so connected to everything else in the world, including the price of oil. So when the gas price goes up here, it's partly due to the printing of the handout money for the COVID reliefs in America, and not many people see that connection.
No, they don't, and you're absolutely right, and that's why we have the race right now. We have the race of other countries trying to debase and devalue their currency because of it. You know, it got tied. I think what Bretton Woods agreement tied everything to the dollar. But yeah, right now it's a race to the bottom. By Bitcoin.
It's definitely a race to the bottom, and it's like a competition of what country can become Venezuela first.
Yeah.
And it's an experiment still. We don't know where it ends. We know it'll probably crash, but I don't know if the crash is coming now sooner or later. I don't know if they can maybe they can keep another bubble going for 10 more years. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But it seems weird with the negative interest rates and everything, and now that people have Bitcoin and are able to opt out of this tragic comedy.
It just proves that this whole thing about a perfect market theory is false. I mean, it's yet another proof, because fiat currency is so terrible, yet people hold it. We have Bitcoin already as the much better alternative, but it doesn't happen instantly because perfect market theory doesn't work. I like how you adopted the central banking system of the world is hereby, from what you said, has been renamed to the Venezuela competition. Who can first do a Venezuela or Zimbabwe?
Yeah, and it's really weird. Of course, if you're printing money, literally printing money, it's quite easy to visualize printing money and trading it for real resources with other countries. Of course, that impoverishes other countries. It's quite easy to see if you just admit to yourself that it's nothing but thin air.
I remember growing up when $1 million was a lot of money. I remember it.
Yeah.
$1 million. Then you hear about billions. And Gigi, if you're watching, man, love your stuff. Thanks for being on the show. But basically, I think the best one is like a billion is still about a trillion short of a trillion. And we're talking in trillions now. We're talking in numbers that we can't wrap our head around.
Oh, that's funny, because I mentioned how we're so many are unable to wrap our heads around big numbers. Like the difference between a billion and a million is about a billion, and the difference between a trillion and a billion is about a trillion. And people don't think about this, but the the best thing, the best metaphor, there's another saying to that. The difference between a Bitcoin and any other unit of other types of money is about a Bitcoin.
Yeah, I love it. We got to mean that one. But that's always been one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, and until you're around this space long enough, and you've dabbled into the shit coins, you don't get it until you look at the charts. You look at the charts and you realize, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Everyone was into one shitcoin or another when they started their Bitcoin journey.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, we were. We had dollars. We had kronas. We had all the other shitcoins that are out there.
True.
Andrew's getting educated here.
I actually won an argument with Knut, but I think I just gave up. That will never happen in eternity. In the infinity of time, that's not going to happen.
Hey, Knut comes in with the asymmetric view, because you're expecting one thing, and man, he just brings in just an entirely different angle.
Knut, so I think what you were saying first time you gate crashed the party here at Toxic Happy Hour, which is about, I think, 9 days ago, is that you were talking about once Bitcoin takes over as money, it is not the end. Once it becomes infinity, it's not the end. It's going to continue to grow, maybe even faster in value. That may be maybe that is putting it a little bit, expectations high. But so I thought a lot about what you said, and once Bitcoin takes over as money of the world, and we no longer have the massive current misallocation of capital that we have when central banks just pump fiat currency out to all these different wrong purposes, when the interest rate is artificially low and everyone builds houses because all of a sudden that makes sense, even though it actually shouldn't make sense, etc. So I think we can expect the growth rate of the world, especially this technological development we have, it's not going to be 2.5% GDP growth a year. Once capital is actually allocated efficiently, it's going to go through the roof, that growth rate. It's the same things GDP,
but the metric won't be GDP, because that doesn't work in a post-hyper-Bitcoinization world. Because it won't grow, because there's a limited amount of money. It will go
that's
down.
Right. Oh yeah, denominated in Bitcoin. Absolutely, you're right. Once again, it won't grow. It will grow in basically how many goods and services we can get for one Bitcoin or one Satoshi. So the value, the purchasing power of Bitcoin is going to start accelerating. And that, what I'm saying is, the purchasing power of Satoshi will grow, maybe not 2.5% per year, but 5 or 8 or 10% per year, because, as Jeff Booth says, deflation is going to take over. Pubby.
Yeah, MG Smith 4 said it best. Sweden beats Denmark. ... Again.
Oh,
again.
I gotta say something. Okay, Knut, you can go first. You are the gate crashing guest. You can go first, and then afterwards, I would like to comment on that.
Yeah, well, you go first, and then my comment on whatever you says is what is my T-shirt.
It's gonna be on your T-shirts, all right.
It's gonna be on my T-shirt. Whatever you say, I have the perfect response on my T-shirt.
Okay, all right. So the story about Sweden beating Denmark. All I want to say is that we do love our and then Knut leaves. I'm here to I'm here to give him a hard time or two. Oh, he's back. He's back. He had to grab his whiskey because this. Yeah. Yeah, that means you can explain afterwards what that means, Knut. But so here's the thing about Sweden beating Denmark. We all know that football, which is soccer, like the game where you use the feet is what is called football. I think that Sweden has done great in international important competitions. They've gone up high, but they never won anything. Denmark won the Euro Cup in '92, where we have Germany, we have Italy, we have France, we have Spain, we have England. Denmark won. Number one, no runner-up, no second runner-up or third runner-up, but we won. But yeah, let's hear it, Knut.
Yeah, I think the last comment there talks for itself. Like speaks for itself. Zlatan could beat Denmark by himself. I don't know anything about football. I don't give a shit about sports. Sorry.
Okay. I love that when Knut knows he can't win the argument, he just claims not to have knowledge. But Knut, everyone here knows that you have infinite knowledge about infinite topics.
For helvete.
Explain, Knut. Explain.
Explain what? The
for
football
helvete.
thing.
For helvete.
For helvete. It's like to hell with it in Danish, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell, or something like that.
Amen.
Yeah.
We need a Danish word. We need one for few. That's the one I'm. If Chairforce Huddle, shout out to him. He does our thumbnails, but he also has some crazy Bitcoin gear that he puts together. And I was asking him to put one together. I just want the Bitcoin logo and underneath the word few.
Right. All right. So let's do that in Swedish and Danish.
That's a good design.
Let's do in Swedish and Danish the pronunciation of few, of the word few in our language. And I'll go first since I have the mute button. So in Danish that would be få.
Yeah, for Swedish.
All right. Yeah.
It's like the Danish word, but without the frog in your mouth.
In Vietnam, they call it.
The Danish word is like the Swedish, but without the golden beer in your mouth. The golden beer.
The Danish golden beer. Yeah.
So let me explain.
Without
like
a silver spoon in your mouth too.
Okay, Pubby, I'm sorry. This is like it's becoming Scandinavian in battle. But the way the first things I learned about Sweden when I grew up was, so in Sweden beer is really, really expensive because the government sits on the distribution of alcohol. And so the way I grew up, me living in a part of Denmark that is very close to Sweden, they can take a ferry. It only takes 15 minutes to get across to Denmark. The first sweets I saw were the ones that came out of the Danish supermarkets with golden beer. So golden beer means it's a stronger beer, and they would just drink that because it's higher percentage, and they would be wobbling around the Danish towns that are the coastal cities with their consummated golden beers. And we used to have a saying: "Keep Denmark clean, follow us sweet to the ferry." Okay. Denmark has the best licorice. That's not even a question. But
no, they're by far the best beers and the best licorice.
So yeah, let me. As much as the beer and football talk is fun, Knut. So what do you? Since December, man. Since December, what have you thought about what's going on in Bitcoin, man? Because it's just absolutely nuts. I remember, for 3 years waiting for 20,000, and now we almost doubled. Were you expecting this?
Yeah,
this last month.
I think I clearly was.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have written those books if I didn't expect this. I mean, and I do expect this to go on for sort of forever. And that's I think that's the biggest misconception people have about this. So. Nothing.
We're a family show, man.
Yeah.
We are a family show, man.
Good night to my daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, where were we? The price. Like I think the price what you value is entirely subjective, and as long as there are hodlers of last resort, there's no way for the price to go but up. So sooner or later, sure, the markets will fluctuate, but hyper-Bitcoinization is real, and we're living through it right now, so act accordingly.
So what are your thoughts when we define hyper-Bitcoinization? To me, initially, when you come in, it's everyone, we transact, medium of exchange. That's it, in Bitcoin, and everyone only accepts Bitcoin. To me, sale or change the rules, and just having it as your savings, your put on your balance sheet, personally or professionally. To me, that's hyper-Bitcoinization. That companies will. It is, right?
Yeah, and like you, if you're rich, you don't need that much media of exchange.
No.
That could be something else, but it's still a very small part of your total wealth if your total wealth is in Bitcoin, which it will be. The part of your total wealth that is in Bitcoin will always increase if you just have some Bitcoin. And sooner or later, the value of that will overtake the value of everything else you own. It's just a matter of time. And this is so weird for it is a weird concept to wrap around your head, because it's much more profound than people think it is, and it's much weirder and much more powerful than people think it is.
Since this is an after party, I just want to give a cheers first of all to you, Knut, for joining and making this an after party to remember, because you always have mind-blowingly interesting statements, especially like being able to say that Sweden always beat Denmark. That's like, really? So cheers to you, cheers to you, Pubby, and cheers to
I never said that.
No. I just put words in your mouth. That's the only way I can win an argument over Knut, is actually like falsely claim what he said. So cheers.
I also said I like Denmark better than Sweden.
So I thought I loved Knut before he came on here today, but now I really love Knut. Cheers to you, buddy.
For hell with it. All right. I think this. We'll have a proper talk next week, and I think my gate crash will be a little shorter this time. People get tired of listening to me all the time. So
not at all.
So cheers, everyone, and take care, and see you next week.
Cheers,
same time, same channel.
Thanks for coming in.
That's right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for stepping up to the plate and giving us some great insights here in the after party. Knut, thank you so much. I'll see you on Monday. That's it. Pubby, another. You're looking really sharp today, and what I'm talking about here is the camera. So in the comment of our Preston and Pierre show, Toxic Happy Hour, someone said he was willing to sponsor a better camera for you. I don't know, because you come through pretty clear, so I think maybe it was because it was zoomed into here. I don't know, but he said spin up a lightning node, or not a lightning node, but a lightning address where he could donate. So I think we'll actually do that going forward. Maybe throw up a lightning, I don't know, invoice or whatever it is, and allow people to be able to donate. And we'll use that on technical equipment, and then we'll use it on steaks, ice cold beers, including Guinness, well poured, only if they're well poured, and just having a great time. Alcohol, shots. We'll use the proceeds of that to that.
I can't disagree. Hey, look, let's be honest. How cool is it to have Andy and Knut on one show? We bring the bonus, baby. We bring the bonus out of nowhere. But yeah, this is actually I'm running out of some battery life on this one. But yeah, same camera. But if someone wants to put out some Bitcoin for an upgrade, that's fine. Guinness, Sierra Nevada, if you're listening. We will take Modelo. Look,
I think there's a good chance that none of those guys are listening. But honestly, how legendary would it be if Guinness started a sponsorship of Toxic Happy Hour? I also want to give a shout out to Pubby, who managed to close the cabinet or closet or whatever you want to call it behind you. And also another shout out to you, Pubby. So I sent a very emotional tweet out. I think it was around Friday, might have been Saturday, saying how not only are your promo memes world class, you also become one of my best friends, which is a tweet you never liked. So I presume that you don't want to be one of my best friends.
Wait, was that a direct message tweet or what was that?
No, you were tagged. All right, I know you are a meme lord and you get like 100 notifications every day, but I sent out a tweet where I said that Pubby was becoming one of my best friends, and it was liked by the crew.
Yeah,
but not Pubby.
Send it to me. I'll like it. Just send it to me directly.
Damage done, baby. Damage done.
Hey, Anders, listen. This goes back to the beginning, the fun we had just talking on the phone, and that's what we wanted to carry over here. This was never about anything else than we just have a good time talking Bitcoin, and we just like, you know what? We know there's a bunch of plebes out there that would think it's pretty cool, and man, were we right? And look how quickly we went from just a couple friends knowing, and that's what you can feel, man. You can feel the love, you can feel the camaraderie, the banter, and that's what you get. You get someone like Andy coming on. You get these people coming on because at the end of the day, man, everyone's human. Everyone just wants to have a good time. They love talking Bitcoin. There's nothing that has to be, I would say, just formalized. We're just be informal, talk Bitcoin, have a beer, buy more Bitcoin.
And as I've told you on a very regular basis, and you can confirm this, that I said, Pubby, cherish the moment now. Those early days of Toxic Happy Hour where we are only shooting the shit and having fun and talking Bitcoin. And I want that to continue. I know you feel the same way. But also, I just want to highlight another angle on that. And that is basically that, look, 5 years from now, there won't be Bitcoiners because everyone is going to be Bitcoiners. So once Bitcoin has taken over as money of the world, we are no longer in the fight for revolution. Right now, we're in the front lines. We're in the ditches, the trenches, whatever. And we are fighting together to make the world a better place with sound money. Just read Jeff Booth. Here we go. I'll pick it up again. Read Jeff Booth. Hard copy, baby. The price of tomorrow. And and this time will only last a couple of more years where we together are fighting for a better world. Once we get the better world, everyone's a Bitcoiner because that's the only way you'll get paid salary-wise. Everything will be denominated in Bitcoin. Right now, it's store of value. It's moving into medium of exchange and unit of account. As we speak, Strike is one example of a medium of exchange. And honestly, for me already, it is the unit of account. I told you I looked at buying a secondhand car when the price of Bitcoin was much lower, and the price was, even for a secondhand car, 1.5 Bitcoin. Like, I can't depart with 1.5 Bitcoin for a car, because I'm like, one Bitcoin is 20 million.
That's the way you got to view it, obviously. So what do you got, man? I'm looking down. I got like 5% power left. I got a few things to do. So what do you have to sign off with?
I think I'll let you do it. Why don't you do the sign off today? And next time, bring a charger for the mobile, but it's okay. It's 11 a.m. for me, and I should do some work today.
Yeah. So with this, here's the problem with this phone is actually I got to get the earbuds hooked up. I got earbuds, but I used the wrong connection. We'll fix it next time. I'm sorry that. What are we at? 2.5 hour show right now? What are we at, man?
We are at 2.5 hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry that it didn't last that long.
Yeah. We are very sorry. We are honestly very sorry to cut it short. Next time, bring a charger for that mobile, so at least I can finish my beer.
Oh, you'll finish it, I'm sure. We could, or I could. I'll transfer.
Why don't you do this sign up today? why don't you do the sign off today? I don't know if you want to talk about dirty fiat. I know Greggy loves that. He's been gone for 2 hours. He left the party 2 hours ago. Greggy likes to be there early and then disappear.
I hate when other Bitcoiners are also responsible family men. It's the worst. Yeah. I'll say this. The space is fantastic. We're even at 40,000, we're still early. I love the fact, Andy, you know, the people on Wall Street, all those elitists are so arrogant and don't get it and won't get it, and screw them all, man. You know, I love the fact that this is a small family. Everyone here, man, I will remember every single one that was here from the beginning, and this is still the beginning. Because I'll tell you what, man, 2021 is shaping up to just explode, and I love it.
To you, Pubby, and the
thanks,
chat.
bud.
To the two people that hung around for the end. Thank you.
Hey, I'm still showing 25 on my end. You see 2?
No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
There's
no,
24 people or something.
I tell you, you know what's interesting, and yeah, this is absolutely out to the chat room. They have no idea, I don't think, what they bring to what we do with their questions, with the commentary, because people come in that, yes, of course, we're just a off the side road kind of show, but they come in here, man. People got smart things, dumb things, and a lot of things they say. But I'll tell you what, they laugh. Andy's come. These people have a great time. Jeff Booth had the best time here because there's no rules. Absolutely no rules, man.
And Jeff Booth told me that one of the things he loved about being on Toxic Happy Hour was that his mother, who also joined in the chat, that's the kind of chat we have. Jeff Booth's mother, Sheila Booth, was in the chat. And Jeff Booth said or told me that one of the things he loved about the show was the fact that his mother said that here was a show where she saw her true son, who Jeff Booth was. She saw Jeff Booth, who she knew that he was on Toxic Happy Hour. And a lot of that is thanks to the amazing chat we have that is so lit and funny. Oh,
hey, and Marty Zhao just put this one out. Sheila is a saint. And Chair Force, if you're listening, that'd be a great t-shirt as well. Sheila is, and she is, especially after RD. I know RD's lurking around there. Said she was hot.
I already said it, but I think this is a great t-shirt. Sheila is a saint. Faux. In Danish, faux. Because faux means it's even fewer if you say it in Danish. It's like.
Look at that. All right, well, let's get on to our daily lives, my friend. It was a great 2.5 hours. Daniel Princey, we love you. Your record is still intact. Well over 3 hours and I think 22 minutes.
I think if anyone deserves a crack at the record, it's going to be Princey himself, especially with Lauren. But he's got to bring Lauren. If he's not bringing Lauren, he's not bringing his A game. Lauren's got to be there. All right. So on that note, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to say it again. Please, consider not holding fiat or putting more value into fiat because it's a built-in policy that it's just diluting in value. And on that note, hey, Lapra, Marisal, RD, MG Smith 4, all of you guys that were here, thank you for making the show.
Pedro, Plan Marcus, BTC Moon Guy, all of them, man.
All of them. There's so many more. That's why I'm always. Labra. I don't want to mention people because I know I'll always forget half, and then that half will be upset. But all of you, all of that was in there, and let this be the final. The final word from RD BTC. Sheila is hot.